On a bright and sunny day at the foot of the Bayou Gorge, tens of thousands of military personnel gathered along with humanity's state-of-the-art artillery and heavy-duty assault vehicles. Xiao Ling observed the true scope of the human force, and the number of troops was much higher than she expected. A battle-scarred awakened soldier approached her to explain the format of their attack. Their combat team would be divided into 3 groups. The other 2 teams comprised the majority of their fighting force in terms of numbers. To prevent mutant beasts from escaping or sneaking into the city, they deployed a large number of troops to surround the 4 main hills of the area. Another soldier chimed in, expressing frustration with the amount of manpower dedicated to this mission. With almost 50,000 troops, he thought it was too excessive and overkill. The commitment to this expedition seemed crazy. The battle-scarred soldier vehemently disagreed. To him, it was absolutely necessary to form such a large coalition. He had already witnessed the strength of the beasts firsthand at the zoo before becoming awakened. This man has some backstory for his scars. Back then, a mere beginner-level 4th stage awakened mutant antelope wiped out a rescue unit of nearly 100 men. It was just a beginner-level 4th stage awakened mutant beast, and it caused catastrophic damage. Not to mention the most dangerous beasts they were bound to encounter in the mountains, especially in the interior area of the gorge, where a mere beginner-level 4th stage mutant would be considered mere food. The newbies are starting to hesitate if they truly took the right career path. They had no choice but to overwhelm the beastly opponents with numbers and equipment. It was their only way to reduce casualties in the grand scheme of the war. Hearing all this information, Xiao Ling's face revealed a complicated expression. She thought back to the remarkable power of her master and contemplated the number of human troops in 3 different points. She wasn't sure anymore if her beloved master could weather the coming storm. The God Tree and the great beasts are looking like the biggest menaces to society, though. In the commander's tent at the base camp, Yan Gao Yuan briefed the rest of the officers on their plan of attack. As mentioned earlier, this operation would be divided into 3 directions. The middle troops would be the main offensive force, while the left and right flanks would encircle the enemy. They would initiate the operation by using ZT-Z999 tanks to bomb their way forward and pave the way for the infantry. The awakened troops would then act as the main attackers, carrying out the encirclement and suppression. All combat soldiers would be equipped with spiritual power shielding devices to conceal their spiritual power and scent. This method would make it harder for the beasts to detect them. Yan Gao Yuan summoned his troops. As the preparation time had elapsed, they have exactly 24 hours to execute. The hunt had officially begun. This war arc is about to go crazy, boys. The tanks from all sides of the gorge readied their heavy artillery and unleashed the culmination of human ingenuity. Each resounding shot echoed throughout the area, destroying the obstructing woods in the path of their unstoppable charge toward the main battlefield. The left flank forces rained down hellfire on the mountains, showing no mercy to any wildlife that resided in the massive area. The forces on the right flank utilized their airborne units, causing fiery explosions that transformed the landscape. They're going hard against the wrong trees. Some soldiers worried about the scale of bombing and wildfire they were causing on the perimeter. However, they had come prepared with a large number of firefighting units stationed around the mountains. The bombing served not only to clear the way to the gorge, but also to drive many beasts into a single location ahead. Suddenly, an imposing voice and an even more imposing figure interrupted the discussions among the foot soldiers. The man strongly urged them to focus solely on their mission and not think about anything else. The foot soldiers were shocked and scared by the appearance of this man. General Li, with his gigantic height, was truly menacing in every detail. This man is just the Giga Chad template. After all, he was one of the strongest generals in the Federation, a single man with the strength of an army. Arguably, he was the most powerful transcendent among everyone in the Federation. Let's see how he does against real power. The soldiers were confused as to why the general had jumped right into the front lines at such a high altitude. But when the smoke from the explosive bombardment cleared, a mountain that had been obliterated came into view. Every officer called for the attention of their troops. They were now ready to advance into the battlefield, filled with determination and courage, facing either death or glory. However, the fiery determination of the military was quickly extinguished as a giant silhouette appeared above their heads. It was none other than Yu Ziyu's roots, disrupting the march and destroying the landscape with sheer force. Countless troops were crushed or flung away by this display of primal strength. That is how you draw the first blood properly. At the same time, gray and foggy creatures landed on the battlefield. Yu Ziyu's fog beasts materialized, even more ferocious than before, as their howls filled the ears of the advancing humans. Xiao Ling immediately recognized that her master had finally arrived on the scene. Yu Ziyu, in his draconic form with his roots and various forms of materialized fog beasts, towered over the tiny specks of the human military forces. This scene is right out of Naruto. Yan Gaoyuan panicked at the report that they were already under attack from the front, not only their main force but also the left wing, where the awakened soldiers were currently being ravaged by savage fog beasts of different forms and unfathomably strong tree roots. A similar sight was taking place on the right wing. They reported to the headquarters that they were under attack by unidentified creatures in the fog, and their biggest threat was a winding and massive creature resembling a tree. Yan Gaoyuan looked at the entire battlefield and was taken aback by such a different start than what he had envisioned. Yu Ziyu was now in his most ruthless state. With these detestable humans trying to break in and take away their peaceful lives, he would not let them get off easy. The stressed-out Supreme Commander, Yan Gaoyuan, ordered an accurate report on the number of fog beasts and monster trees. He also called for air support on the left and right wings. This dude is going to pass away not because of the war, he'll probably kick the bucket due to stress. They went all in, putting anti-aircraft guns on standby while releasing incendiary bombs. The explosions almost reached the fog beasts, which were susceptible to fire. Yu Ziyu's sturdy and almost indestructible roots came to the rescue, tanking multiple rounds of anti-aircraft fire. In response to the firepower of the humans, the barbarism of the primate faction was unleashed upon the infantry. A large group of mutant gorillas suddenly appeared on the flank of the foot soldiers. Let's go King Kong faction. These apes possessed unfathomable strength and viciousness, now facing the armor-piercing bullets of the human soldiers. With a devilishly smart move, the larger apes in the group started digging out massive boulders from the rocky ground of the mountain, while the smaller ones rushed with unpredictable speed and pace. The boulders were tossed at the tanks, causing massive explosions at the flank of the human soldiers. The gorilla faction didn't waste this opportunity and charged with full rage and ferocity. Zooming out from the battlefield, the air forces could be seen arriving at the flanks for support, but Yu Ziyu's massive root was ready to match their forces. He was extremely pleased with how effective he had been in dealing with and halting the initial advance of the impressive army. That's when the Emperor Alligator reached out to him, informing him that a few mice had silently broken in. He assured his subordinates that everything would be okay. No matter how elite and covert those mice were, there was already someone ready to deal with them. If the humans have shooters, he has even wilder ones. The elite forces sneaking inside the foggy mountains maintained their vigilance in the unfamiliar woods. Suddenly, a laser sight caught the presence of a vicious-looking beast ready to pounce at any second. It was none other than Baldhead himself. When the light was shed upon their direction, it was revealed that this was the entire Expeditionary Beast unit, a force with the strength and madness to conquer a whole section of the mountain range and hunt countless beasts. These guys are about to go nutty with their kill-death ratio. This time around, the Federation has deployed around 50,000 troops. These numbers consist of 100 tanks, 75 helicopters, 1,000 awakened troops, and 2,000 genetically modified soldiers. Most of the numbers are composed of China Federation's strongest military force. To top it all off, they have General Li on the battlefield. They've already established that simply finding the Emperor Alligator is not their real mission. They are aiming for the root of it all. They must find the mastermind behind the beast organization of the Beiyu Gorge. To avoid the direct attack of the fog beasts when the army gathers, they had specially arranged the troops to gather outside the range of the fog. But now, the fog itself had traveled towards the front line. Even though they have no idea how the enemies accomplished this seemingly impossible feat, one thing is for sure. The enemy boss is on a whole other level. Yan Gaoyuan estimates that they are bound to face something in the transcended rank 1 or above in terms of pure combat ability. This man does not know just how screwed they really are. They have 23 hours and 41 minutes left in the battle. Until the very last moment, they must gather as much information as possible. For clarity's sake, this is the sketch of Yu Ziyu's forces scattered around the Beiyu Gorge. On the left wing, the foot soldiers desperately emptied their ammunition on the opponents in front of them. It was none other than Thorn. She had finally gained total control of her crimson vines as she blazed through the human troops. With each smack of her vines, a soldier became out of commission for the rest of the war with heavy injuries. The humans could see her as nothing but a monster as they continued their hail of bullets without hesitation, despite her humanoid appearance. Coming from the flank, a ferocious jaws stretched open as a gigantic figure of a white tiger descended upon the fighting soldiers. Blood spurted out everywhere as the white tiger finally started going on a rampage for his bloody feast. Thorn and the white tiger, the teacher, and the dumb student teamed up. They had to remain careful with their moves, as they were massively outnumbered by the enemies ahead. The white crane hurriedly rushed to their side to warn them of something big incoming. It was a powerful missile bound to crash and explode on them. It swiftly made contact with the area they were standing in, and a loud detonation echoed throughout the mountains. The supergenetic modification team duo watched as the beasts in front of them were swallowed up by a massive blast. The detestable woman Yan Lang Ling had reached beginner rank 8, while the lion man Yu Ziyu was at beginner rank 9. They were already celebrating the deaths of the opponents standing in the way of their advancement. She even joked that the white tiger's skin was hers for the taking. Why did they have to make the cat girl evil? That's when she was taken aback by the sight in front of her. The rank 9 white tiger, rank 7 Thorn, and the duo of rank 6 Tempest Wolves stood their ground unscathed from the destructive force of the missile. The lion man, Yu Ziyu, became even more fired up as he admired the opponents in front of him. They had survived a cannon missile that was specially developed to deal with beasts. He did not expect them to still be alive, let alone uninjured after taking it head-on. I've told you guys 1,000 times, these beasts are just built different. His eyes were fixated on the ferocious-looking white tiger, the king of the beasts. Yan Lang Ling proposed that they should capture the woman. With this method, they would truly be able to get the mastermind to show up. With an agreement that they would split the white tiger's skin and the woman, Yu Ziyu readied himself for a fight between two kings as he transformed into a monstrous lion. Meanwhile, in another part of the battlefield, a stick traveled in a forceful trajectory. It was the gold silk monkey brandishing his stick toward a soldier's crotch. "I can feel your pain, soldier man." The war armor boar, on the other hand, was drop-kicking the troops like he was in an exhibition wrestling match. Lastly, Baldhead was running all over the place with a speed so fast that he was dodging bullets mid-air. The foot soldiers were starting to panic as none of their shots were landing no matter how hard they tried, and the beast was slowly getting closer to them. Baldhead finished his rush with a booty smack toward the soldier's face. The disrespect is unreal. That's a stinky finisher. The three Beast Stooges had become a deadly trio when it comes to dispatching troops. After all, they had gained plenty of experience fighting beasts in the mountains. Just like a wholesome group of friends, they celebrated their victory with a cheerful high five. As they were leaving the area to patrol another place, the gold silk monkey noticed something fishy amongst the bushes out of the corner of his eye. Coming off from a decisive victory against the foot soldiers, he immediately and confidently jumped towards the bushes as he readied a stick strike, like he always did. While midair, he realized his mistake as the figure in the bushes came into view. It was a man who was part of the super being team. He had purple hair and massive scorpion tail growing from his back. That's a whole villain. The gold silk monkey was too late in identifying that he had just made a huge blunder with his overconfidence as a scorpion tail stab was already upon him. He tried his best to guard against the brunt of the tail's force as the man smiled confidently at him. The gold silk monkey flew back to his friends with minimal injury, but he was in a worse condition overall. He was stabbed by the scorpion's tail, and the venom was already circulating through his body, judging by the looks of the wound. The man claimed that this is the strongest venom of all the venomous scorpions out there. In just a minute, the gold silk monkey would die. Hearing this angered Baldhead, and he did not waste any time rushing at the limits of his speed. He swiftly locked onto the man from the flank. As he was rushing with unparalleled rage and aggressiveness, someone managed to keep up with him. It was a man with a thick yellow aura, running side by side with him, praising his exceptional speed. It's Overman, the got old Flash on their team. The man promptly grabbed Baldhead midway through his rush and forcefully sent him crashing through the floor like it was light work. Another member of the super being team descended from above, wielding a massive spherical hammer. She was coming in with a bang, her heavy smash locked and loaded towards the already poisoned gold silk monkey. Fortunately, the war armor boar managed to take the heavy smash squarely to his head, protecting his weakened brother from being crushed on the ground. He gritted his teeth at the pain of taking such a heavy attack literally head-on. The super being team trio stood at a distance as they easily gained the upper hand just like that. The lightning-fast older man is the beginner rank 8 Lei Su. The freakishly strong cute woman is the beginner rank 7 Yun Chui. And lastly, the venomous scorpion hybrid is the beginner rank 6 Du Shi. The beginner rank 8 Baldhead, beginner rank 7 war armor boar, and gold silk monkey were suddenly torn down from their high spirits and driven to a corner by such an effective series of ambushes. Seizing the opportunity as the two beasts were badly injured, the super being team trio saw it fit to bring the battle to its conclusion. They rushed towards the beasts with everything they had. Without hesitation, Baldhead took the initiative to meet the rushing team midway. He had finally activated his thunderous ability. Baldhead will clutch this. He has that dog in him. He jumped right above the trio as the man mocked him for daring to meet them head-on, being just a little guy. Baldhead simply responded by concentrating all of his thunder energy into a single attack, screaming wildly at his opponents. The Super Being Team trio was enveloped in a high-voltage blast of electricity. They were stunned and slowly paralyzed by the fierce attack. He really gave them the Pikachu treatment. All of them had the same thought as they were being slowly fried. They could not believe that a honey badger could use lightning to this degree. Seizing the chance to finish the job while the Super Being Team trio was paralyzed, the War Armor Boar and Gold Silk Monkey rushed for the opponents. With everything they had in the tank, forceful strikes landed on two of the men, while Baldhead dealt the final blow against the freakishly strong woman. Locusts are arthropods with green or yellowish-brown bodies, and there are more than 1,000 species in the world. Are we watching National Geographic right now? A single locust is not harmful to human beings. It can be killed by conventional means, but that's only true against one. When human beings face a plague of thousands of locusts, no matter how powerful humans are, under the swarm of those tiny insects, one will feel overwhelmingly hopeless. Back in the battlefield, the Super Being Team trio was knocked out cold by the combined desperation of War Armor Boar, Gold Silk Monkey, and Baldhead. Despite their victory, Gold Silk Monkey is still facing a fatal problem as he coughs heavily. He limped towards the scorpion tail that stunned and poisoned him to his current weakened state. Extreme absorption is a unique innate ability of monkeys, giving them the ability to absorb all beneficial substances from other sources. However, once toxins invade their bodies, the same ability strongly rejects the toxic substances, as there is no way to naturally purify toxins circulating inside. Extreme absorption undoubtedly makes Gold Silk Monkey's condition even more painful. He's on his last legs as he struggles to even stand or breathe. To add to their misfortune, it seems like the human troop reinforcements have finally arrived at their location. The soldiers quickly identified that the beasts in front of them knocked down the awakened force ahead. Without question, they started raining down bullets towards the already injured beast party. They cannot let them escape now. Thankfully, normal bullets are useless against them as the bounce of such weak ammunition only serves to annoy Baldhead. The soldiers quickly adapted as they tried to switch to the special bullets in their arsenals, having identified the trio as high-level beasts. Baldhead did not give them room to brace themselves as he was already charging up his electricity once again. Most of the troops were naturally rendered out of commission from such a strong shock, while the others were subjected to the blunt force of War Armor Boar's wild charge. Gold Silk Monkey remained still at the back as he was slowly dying from the scorpion venom. Suddenly, a commanding figure appeared right behind him. It was a transcendent human who had his attack locked and loaded against the defenseless injured monkey. He brought his hand down, aiming squarely at the Gold Silk Monkey. He was full of rage and contempt as the killing intent in his strike would surely claim a life when it landed. Gold Silk Monkey had nowhere to go. Suddenly, War Armor Boar came out of nowhere and at blinding speed. He positioned himself to shield his brother against a powerful killing strike. He gritted his teeth as he felt the attack piercing through his thick defenses. Gold Silk Monkey watched in horror as his best buddy, his brother, and his partner in crime jumped in front of a horrific killing blow to protect him. Tears started to well up in his sad and scared eyes. Baldhead saw this development while encircled by soldiers, and even he could not handle the sight of his beloved friend being pierced through. The man punched a hole clean through the War Armor Boar and clutched his heart right in his hand. With a forceful grip, he painfully took the life of the magnificent beast. Rest in peace, he was a real one until the end. The War Armor Boar lay lifeless in front of his killer and the Gold Silk Monkey. It slowly sunk in that his most precious friend just sacrificed himself in front of him. Emotions welled up all over his body just as the venom in his system. Baldhead got distracted by the plight of his brothers and was taken aback by a bright light coming out of nowhere. Another awakened soldier with a mutant hand capable of producing high-powered laser beams appeared on the battlefield and hit Baldhead with a critical strike. Along with the regular soldier reinforcements, the Super Being team slowly poured into the foggy gorge. All they wanted was destruction and death upon the beasts of the mountains. Gold Silk Monkey had lost all reason due to his grief. While the venom circulated around his system painfully, he still tried to charge at the incoming enemies with his simple wooden stick. What greeted him was a rain of special bullets coming from the reinforcement troops. Thankfully, the tenacious Baldhead managed to tank a laser beam to his body. He hurriedly grabbed his buddy to desperately make a run for it. They immediately established quite a bit of distance between themselves and the soldiers, but these troops were not going to let them escape easily at all. While they were desperately fleeing for their lives, Gold Silk Monkey could not stop crying as he could not accept losing his brother. Baldhead was doing his best to stay composed and keep on running despite a severe injury in his leg. That point-blank laser beam really did a number on him. With the pain of his injury and the pain of losing a friend, he was barely holding it together himself. Humans are done for at this point. Two small but brilliant lights with a golden and blue hue ravaged around the unsuspecting soldiers all over the place. It was none other than the insect faction, Sparky and Blue Mantis. If they kept running at this unbelievably fast pace, they would exhaust themselves quickly. But in Sparky's mind was one thing and one thing only. There are humans in the mountains, and he must kill every single one of them. I'm on board with Sparky's hater energy now. The two charged through the woods like deadly arrows. On the other side of the battlefield, White Tiger was not in the best condition either. He stood alongside Thorn, both bloodied and injured due to the intense battle against the human troops. In exchange for their injuries, they had already killed over 100 human soldiers while keeping up and injuring the super genetic modification duo. They had gone crazy with pure viciousness. Thorn, White Tiger, White Crane, and a single Tempest Wolf stood among hundreds of corpses. The Lion Man thought that this force would not last long anymore as there was only one wolf left, while everyone else's injuries were not light at all. He also noticed that White Tiger kept on protecting the mutant girl while they fought. They could use her as bait to finally deal with every single one of the beasts. Thorn could already tell that the White Tiger was running out of gas in his tank, and he wouldn't last long. The Pregus shells that landed on them caused a lot of damage. They panted and struggled to even stand straight. She knew that if it wasn't for White Tiger lasting this long despite running out of energy quite some time ago, they would have been caught already. Suddenly, even more awakened reinforcement forces arrived on the battlefield. They were being led by a familiar face from the super genetic modification team. This vampire-looking man berated the lion man Yu Ziyu for having such a hard time dealing with a tiger. He looked back at the vampire-looking man named Gullah, a mixture of fear and relief washing over him just from the presence of this guy. The already discouraged Thorn was sent into an even deeper despair as she saw the reinforcements arrive. She also sensed that the guy named Gullah had a huge spiritual amount in his body. Only her master, the God Tree himself, could deal with this mutant, the genetic transcendent Gullah. Feed this man garlic and he'll probably die. He ordered the troops to just keep on attacking as they had been doing. The beast squad would fall sooner or later. This time around, every single awakened soldier was charging in for the kill. There was no way that the White Tiger and the rest of the party could take another full-force charge from these reinforcements. But White Tiger was just too tenacious. He alone met their charge and promptly latched onto one unfortunate soul as he crushed him with a powerful jaw and unbelievably sharp teeth. The White Crane and their remaining Tempest Wolf did not give up either as they slay their fair share of awakened soldiers. Even the docile Thorn did not show any mercy to anyone that came within her strike zone. The crazy cat girl Yan Langling took advantage of the commotion of the battlefield and threw 2 flash bombs towards Thorn. She was enveloped in a blinding light, stunning her in place and halting her crimson vines. Throwing flashbangs in an open field with your teammates is crazy. Yan Langling's hand transformed into nefarious claws as she aimed to take down Thorn. She did not waste a second and brandished her claws. Heavy artillery missiles rained down hellfire from above, decimating the airborne units of the military. The primate faction was forced to endure and dodge the full brunt of the explosions pouring down upon them. The infantry on the ground observed with maximum anxiety as they tried to catch a glimpse of whether the monstrous beasts had been blown up or not. Contrary to the foot soldiers' wishes, the primates were safe and sound, as bloodthirsty as ever. They sought asylum at Yu Ziyu's roots as soon as the missiles were released. The roots and the beasts remained unscathed despite the best efforts of humanity's technology. Realizing that the apes were unharmed, the soldiers promptly tried their best to hinder the beast charge by unleashing a hail of bullets upon them. Meanwhile, in the air, the Peregrine Falcon faction had finally arrived on the scene. They did what they did best, flying at incredible speeds and eliminating every single airborne unit of the human force. Yu Ziyu sneered, knowing that missiles, explosives, or any of the human forces could never penetrate him, just as he was boasting about his resilience. A decisive step could be heard just a few meters from him. A fearsome silhouette, with extremely powerful proportions, slowly approached him. The figure was a human with 2 scars on his eyes, showing no hint of panic or worry. Yu Ziyu celebrated that, finally, a human had reached his main body in this ongoing war. We're finally seeing another boss fight. Let's go. Of course, this so-called human was none other than General Li, the most powerful transcendent of the Federation. Back in the intense battlefield, Yan Langling forcefully thrust her sharp claws towards Thorn's body. Blood spurted everywhere as she utilized every muscle in her body to pierce through. She exerted so much force that she lifted Thorn into the air, charging through the battlefield until their momentum was halted by a massive tree. Thorn suffered a grievous wound at the side of her body. bearing the full brunt of Yan Lang Ling's ferocious attack. The insane cat girl cursed Thorn, claiming that she smelled just like the country girl she despised from the bottom of her black heart, Xiao Ling. She continued to say that the smell stank and made her want to throw up. Yan Lang Ling planned to end her ridiculous rant with a final killing blow to the mutant woman, but she immediately felt that something was severely wrong. A massive claw strike came so fast that she did not even have time to process what was happening. She was thrown to the side, tossed away like a ragdoll by Thorn and the White Tiger. The Lion Man called out to his partner as she crashed through the ground, sustaining fatal injuries. She struggled to speak and breathe as blood spurted from her neck. Thorn was not in better condition either. Gasping for air, the severe injury at the side of her body grew even more serious with each passing moment. That's when something unbelievable happened. In perfect human language, the White Tiger asked her to leave wholeheartedly. The White Tiger continued with his words as if he were a toddler who had just learned how to speak. He wanted Thorn to go and find their master, the God Tree. Thorn was taken aback by the White Tiger's words. In the months she had lived in the Bayou Gorge, he had been the only beast who had a hard time even understanding simple words, let alone speaking them. She had been a patient teacher, while the White Tiger proved to be her most troublesome student. He continued with his broken, childlike, but ultimately meaningful speech. He explained that behind them, there were many powerful spiritual resources. If Thorn didn't leave right away, every single one of them would die. She understood the gravity of their situation, but she couldn't bear to leave the beasts who had grown closer to her heart over time. She tried to protest the White Tiger's words, but she was met with a loud, gentle, and meaningful howl. White Tiger should be nominated for Best Cat Award. The howl finally gave her the determination to do what she needed to do at that moment. With her grievous wound, she utilized her powerful crimson vines to flee from the battlefield towards the location of their master, the God Tree. Naturally, the awakened forces would never let her go easily, so they promptly chased after her fleeing figure. The first ones to get close to her were immediately chewed up by the ferocious jaws of the Tempest Wolf. Following that, the reinforcement soldiers took their positions and prepared to rain down long-range special bullets upon the mutant woman. Just as the bullets were about to reach the already injured Thorn, the White Crane took the shots like the loyal subordinate that he was. This allowed Thorn to get further away from the chasing units. The White Crane teared up and chirped as he started to feel the pain of tanking the human's special bullets. The last Tempest Wolf on this side of the battlefield also succumbed to his stamina as the awakened forces unleashed their simultaneous abilities, overwhelming the beast. The human forces gained momentum as they released their full force upon the battle-worn White Tiger. Thorn couldn't help but cry her heart out at the thought of leaving her friends and her pupil, White Tiger, to fend for themselves against the brutal humans. Even though they couldn't hear it, she apologized profusely for not having the strength to help them at all. More awakened forces rushed in, attempting to chase after the fleeing mutant woman. The last line of defense against these pursuers was the stalwart White Crane, spreading his wings and enduring the strikes from the awakened humans. With every attack he took, blood spurted from his frail and slender body. He remembered the fight he never wanted to participate in. In the White Crane's mind, he had no emotional attachment to the two girls attacked by the war axe snake. He didn't want to die, and he couldn't understand why creatures that were already dead needed to be mourned so heavily. For him, such behavior was meaningless. But in the end, he still chose to fight and ultimately lost horribly. Cranes are large terrestrial birds that live in flocks. Usually, they consist of several families and form an even larger flock. They were considered an endangered species, but with a revival of spiritual energy, they barely escaped extinction. After his experience against the war axe snake, he sought refuge under the protection of the God Tree. Although he was not valued as a core member of the circle and was just in existence on the edge, he was still happy because, for once in his life, he had a home. While interacting with a colorful cast of beasts and other creatures in the gorge, he gradually understood the determination for revenge that everyone had back then. The more he understood, the more painful it became. He felt ashamed of his own powerlessness at that time. From that point on, he made up his mind. When a crisis struck again, he would do what was necessary. So, he raised his wings in front of an awakened soldier and, in perfect human language, vowed to never let anyone pass. This side character bird is making me cry. Despite his existing fatal wounds, he exuded a dignified demeanor with his wings spread wide open. As the awakened soldiers rushed to get the White Crane out of the way, they were caught off guard by the lightning-fast pounce of the White Tiger. One of the soldiers was bitten in half, while the other was crushed by a claw. The White Tiger spat out the lifeless awakened shoulder and turned his attention to the hundreds of awakened soldiers in front of him. No matter which angles you looked at it, this was a losing battle. The genetic transcendent Gullo ordered everyone to charge at once, as the enemies were visibly on their last leg. The only thing replaying in the white tiger's mind were the words his master had bestowed upon him. The god tree had said that it was good he was pursuing greater power because, in terms of fighting skills, he would never lose. However, he must understand that the power of the flesh does not last forever. The body's power will dissipate over time, and when that time comes, he will feel afraid due to his lack of power. So, he must sharpen his mind. The courage to never retreat in the face of a powerful opponent, and the righteousness to shoulder responsibilities were the things he must learn, as he would undoubtedly need them later. And that's because, out of everyone in these mountains, the white tiger is the king of the beasts. You all got to put some respect in his name. A few moments later, Sparky finally arrived at his destination. He rushed with all the speed he could muster, and the sight that greeted him was nothing short of unbelievable. It was as if he was seeing the god of death itself in the form of a monstrous beast. The white tiger had properly claimed his title as the king of the beasts atop a mountain of hundreds of awakened human corpses. He might be a cat, but he got that dog in him. Even Sparky felt a shiver run down his spine, witnessing their once silly tiger in this fearsome state. I have a question for you guys. When exactly does the attitude of a king begin to show in them? Is it from the moment they leave their mother's side? Is it when they achieve their first successful hunt? Or is it when they face death for the first time and show unwavering courage? No, it's none of those things. Instead, it's after the grueling tribulation White Tiger just went through. Sparky looked up from below, and all he saw was something on a priceless painting. White Tiger stood on top of his foes, cementing his throne with their blood as the king of the beasts. But a closer look would reveal an almost lifeless light in his once vibrant eyes. Even in the face of death, he is still maintaining a proud attitude fit for a king. He was built different until his final moments. He'll always be king. When Blue Mantis caught up to Sparky at the battlefield, he looked up and saw the same eerie sight as his friend. Even though he was not too acquainted with the other beasts yet, he could not help but cry at the tragic sight in front of him. The skin on the right side of White Tiger's body was peeled off completely. Blue Mantis looked at Sparky on his side, unable to believe if the brutality he was seeing was real. The golden mutant ant that had suffered the most at the hands of humanity was visibly shaking and crying at the sight of his brother in this condition. His already intense revulsion towards humans was starting to boil to another level. His golden aura started resembling that of a bloody crimson energy. He simply could not stomach just how many more precious things the humans were taking away from him. He felt equal parts defeated and enraged by just how far humanity had extended their hatred. We fully support Sparky turning into the dark side completely. On another side of the battlefield, Baldhead and the slowly dying gold silk monkey took shelter on a broken down tree after fleeing from the awakened soldiers who were actively pursuing them. Gold silk monkey was clearly not in any condition to run anymore as the scorpion venom continued to ravage his system. Baldhead was tired and injured. He was on his last legs with little to no gas in his tank. Suddenly, the voices of the awakened soldiers could be heard getting closer and closer to their location. These guys were not going to let them escape at all. Gold Silk Monkey was starting to become delirious as he knocked on death's door under the leaves that Baldhead had blanketed his cold body in. Come on, man. Can we just go back to happy times? The honey badger looked back at his longtime friend with profound sadness in his eyes. He had lost far too many precious comrades in such a short time. To distract the pursuers from his dying friend's body, Baldhead decided to rush through the woods and head toward the voices he heard. Sometimes the power of friendship is not enough. The awakened soldiers knew that the honey badger beast had defeated the Supreme Commander Yan Gao Yuan's team before. They knew it was a beast that could not be killed even with the use of armor-piercing bullets. They planned to take it on themselves to deal with this mighty monster. Just as they were wondering where Baldhead could have possibly run off to, a ferocious gaze of a hunter was already lurking right behind them. Just like a traveling bullet, he lunged through one unsuspecting awakened soldier and tore through his shoulder as if it were made of paper. The rest of the squad immediately went on high alert as one of their members fell lifeless on the ground and a beast jumped right over their heads. Go for more assassinations, buddy. We're rooting for you. Without hesitation, an awakened soldier with a menacing gauntlet landed a critical hit squarely on Baldhead's small body. At the same time, another soldier wielding a fearsome mallet was readying her brutal strike. To cap off the combo, the mallet brought the injured Baldhead from the air to the floor with tremendous force. But the awakened soldier felt that something was off with her vicious attack. Lifting the mallet, she saw that the honey badger beast had surprisingly tunneled through the ground below. They had just lost their target once again. They quickly tried to regroup and conduct another thorough search of the perimeter. Just as they were about to leave, the ground shook in front of one of the soldiers. Baldhead tumbled upwards with unstoppable momentum as he unleashed a skull bash against the guy above him. This caused explosives with safety pins to fall all over the place. Baldhead was finding it hard to even stay conscious at this point. That's when a familiar, hateful voice appeared at his flank, asking for the location, and insulting his friend, the gold silk monkey. The awakened soldier who had killed the war armor boar released a vicious chop right in the middle of Baldhead's struggling body. We don't even know who this guy is, but I hate him with a burning passion. The force was so powerful that it caused the surrounding terrain to break, bend, and cave inwardly towards the epicenter of the chop. Baldhead was suffering and shivering from the agony of his injuries piling up on top of each other. The ruthless man was not done yet. He released another punch that caved in his chest. This awakened soldier was simply full of hatred towards beasts, seeing them as nothing but bugs that dared to mess with him. Baldhead endured a brutal flurry of strikes from the soldier as he cried in pain. He raised his arms in a weak attempt to guard his broken face, but the onslaught did not show signs of stopping at all. The awakened soldier finally finished his rampage with an uppercut to the unconscious honey badger. He was sent flying forward until he hit the rocky terrain of the mountain. The awakened soldier squad looked in anticipation of their brutality as the dust settled on this battlefield. Baldhead was still trying to be resilient, as that was his biggest weapon, but he could barely stand and breathe. The soldiers laughed and joked amongst each other to stop wasting time and finish this beast off. There were many other beasts to kill in this massive mountain. In his mind, Baldhead could only think of a single good memory at the precipice of his life. He just wanted to ask the kind Shaolin for some more meat. At death's door, all he wanted was some more delicious meat. "You got this, buddy. We'll give you every cut of meat that you like." The awakened soldier squad resembled a pack of devils grouping up to torment the dying honey badger, using every means to hurt the little guy. They let their sick and twisted methods take over. That's when Baldhead revealed his final trump card. It turned out that he had stolen some grenades from the guy he had dealt with earlier. It was as if time slowed down as he let go of the explosives in the middle of the soldiers harassing him. They quickly caught on, but they were still taken aback by this desperate move by Baldhead. He was already mustering every single ounce of energy left in his tiny body to jump away from the inevitable explosions of the grenades. An explosive light enveloped the whole squad. They tried to flee, but it did not take even a fraction of a second for the powerful force to swallow their bodies whole. The chaotic battlefield was swallowed up by Baldhead's final ace in the hole. Meanwhile, on the other side of the gorge, a familiar scaly figure could be seen traversing the woods. Of course, it was none other than the transcendent beast, Emperor Alligator, finally making his move. Finally, go on a rampage, big boy. We see Baldhead standing in pristine condition, but something seems off. His presence feels ethereal and spiritual. Peace can be seen in his eyes as a familiar figure gently and excitedly calls out to him. It is none other than the spirit of the deceased kind woman, Shoveling. With just one look, the honey badger can already tell where he is now. He cries due to the mixture of emotions brewing inside him. Excitedly, he jumps and hugs the kind woman. She was the last person in his mind before he passed away, the only person kind enough to give him food out of pure generosity back then. He clings to her tightly as tears cascade like pouring rain. She reassures him that it is okay now. He won't be hurt anymore. "Who's cutting onions out here?" She takes him by the hand as they head off into the bright and serene light together. Back in the battlefield, Baldhead's body is bloodied, battered and bruised from all the beating he endured. His little frame can no longer take it as he lies lifeless on the cracked ground. Gold Silk Monkey manages to push himself despite the painful venom rampaging inside his body. He does not care about the corpses of the awakened soldiers around his friend. All he wants is to rush to his side. He finally breaks down at the sight of his stubborn buddy, meeting his end after diverting the soldiers' attention away from him. "Come on, man. This war is too much." That's when he hears a feeble voice coming from one of the awakened soldiers. The soldier is complaining about his injuries and asking if anyone is out in the battlefield to help him. He pleads for help while cursing out Baldhead. He vows to skin the honey badger alive. No, it does not matter to him if it's alive or dead. He'll never let it go. Hearing this converts the sorrow that the gold silk monkey is feeling into unrestrained rage as he picks up his trusty stick to bash the man in the face. He transformed into a tiny demon incarnate as he knows that this is the man responsible for taking the lives of his precious brothers. Seeing this form, the injured man feels powerless and immediately shifts into pleading for his life. He vows to leave the forest right now, trying every shameless measure to get out of the situation he started. This only serves as more fuel to the fire raging inside the gold silk monkey's heart. He cries in grief and fury, as there is only one thing he wants to do. He unleashes countless strikes from his trusty stick, having no regard for the man's pleas or his own health and well-being. He just wants the man to taste a fraction of the pain he's feeling. Go off, little guy. Bloody footsteps can be seen leaving the battlefield. What is left on the site is a broken-down stick that has turned crimson with blood, along with the disfigured and unrecognizable body of the awakened soldier who tormented the group of beast friends. He was not messing around at all. The gold silk monkey has only one mission left in his mind as he carries Baldhead's body, limping forward with unwavering conviction. He's bleeding from his poison wound, and the venom has finally spread all over his body. That's when we see their destination, the lifeless body of his brother and best friend, the war armor boar. With a meaningful pat on the head, he looks at the sky of the Bayou Gorge one last time. A faint smile forms on his mouth as he reminisces about their time together. They bickered and fought about simple things, but the bond between the three of them is stronger than blood, species, or form. They're just three friends who went through everything together. Side by side, they nestle in peaceful slumber until their last breath fades into eternal rest. Rest in peace, boys. No more pain. In another part of the mountain, Thorn can be seen slowly limping in the woods. She has one goal in mind, to find the god tree for her safety despite her grievous wound. She cannot let the sacrifices of her friends go to waste. That's when a familiar fur slowly steps near her. She turns her head and excitedly calls out to the unique coat of white tiger that caught her eye. It turns out to be the detestable Yan Lang Ling wearing the fur from the recently deceased king of the beasts. She dons her mocking smile as she taunts Thorn with her friend's skin worn like a piece of clothing. That's just foul. From now on, I don't like cat girls anymore. Behind Yan Lang Ling is the entourage of fierce and awakened soldiers, along with the genetic transcendent Gullah. The despicable woman continues to push her by saying that the white tiger's fur is extremely warm. Thorn finally breaks down at the sight of her friend and student's skin flayed off and worn. Despite her injuries, she pours her energy into her crimson vines, promptly locking onto the hateful cat girl. Yan Lang Ling took her on easily this time around. She takes advantage of her faster speed to bypass the charge of the crimson vines. She continues to mock Thorn, believing that she is no match for her with her scarred and battered body. She gets close and grabs her where it would hurt, pulling her by the hair and applying pressure to her bleeding wound as she intends to make Thorn suffer before taking her life. That's when a bright golden flash appears at the corner of everyone's eyes. An explosion quickly follows, catching even Gullah by surprise. Yan Lang Ling is forced to retreat as she safely gets out of the explosion in the nick of time, sustaining just a few injuries. It is none other than the remaining superhumans in the Bayou Gorge and Thorn's friends, Lang Feng at entry level 7 and Qing Chuan at entry level 8. The human force is astonished at the sight in front of them. They did not expect other humans to be part of the beast organization in these mysterious mountains. Gullah remains calm as he lays down the plan for everyone. If they catch these humans alive, they can interrogate them about the organization's affairs. He also instructs the once again injured Yan Lang Ling to retreat, as there is no way she can handle these reinforcements in her current state. The genetic transcendent himself will take them on alone. He looks dope though. I hope they can convert this guy into an ally or something. Back in the heart of the forest, General Li and Yu Ziyu stand in front of each other, the strongest presence on each side just a few meters away from crippling one side or the other. General Li starts the conversation by stating that the massive god tree in front of him seems like the boss here. Yu Ziyu does not waste any time and confirms that probing statement by the general. Inside Li's mind, he formulates his next move. They already knew from the beginning that intelligent beasts exist, but even after speaking and interacting with this sentient creature, it still feels fantastical to him. He does not expect the boss to easily admit that he's in charge of everything directly. Slowly, he draws his sword as he continues to ask if Yu Ziyu made the fog beasts as well. It turns out that General Li is an extraordinary second-order transcendent. He has the innate ability of innate wisdom. He's also mastered sword chi alchemy, allowing him to increase his spiritual power and giving him the ability to go toe-to-toe with enemies stronger than him at the cost of his own lifespan. He is a man deserving to be called one of the strongest generals in the Federation. You got those crazy stats on paper. Let's see if he can hold candle to the goat. Yu Ziyu casually confirms that he created everything around them and that humans should not have barged in here indiscriminately. The general claps back, stating that strange beasts shouldn't take away the places where humans live. If you don't get rid of them now, he fears that humanity won't be able to live in peace. Ticked off by this entitled and arrogant rebuttal, Yu Ziyu concludes that words alone cannot solve the problem today. Blood must be drawn for a resolution. The general does not waste a second as he slashes his sword with every fiber of his spiritual energy. Yu Ziyu simply responds by swinging his gargantuan root to intercept the general's blade, shattering it into a million pieces like glass. Along with the broken shards of his precious sword, the general's confidence slowly fragments as he realizes just who he is trying to fight. It's promptly constricted by the thick and strong roots, rendering the calm and composed general subdued. This scene is the definition of F around and find out. We once again find ourselves in a flashback to the war plans of the higher-ups regarding the hunt. They gathered inside the round table where Yan'Gao Yuan is showing them. The footage of where the reconnaissance plane attached to the Emperor Alligator was last spotted before it entered the mountain. Right now, this is the visibility in the mountain as captured by the satellites. It is heavily surrounded by mist, and originally, the appearance of the misty mountains before the spiritual energy revival was that of a long gorge surrounded by lush trees. With this distinction, they have pinpointed that the gorge is the hiding place of the beasts. In a serious tone, he further explained what they were discussing earlier. They must consider the possibility that the organization which has control over the mountains might be humans. But in Yan'Gao Yuan's gut, he feels that maybe this organization is not human after all. The head of the Federation and General Li were taken aback by the possibility of this hypothetical scenario. That's when he showed the footage of the moment when the reconnaissance plane was shot down by the fog beasts. In the lower right corner, there are some unidentified figures present. After technical restoration, they managed to salvage a result that shocked everyone in the room. It was a grainy footage of none other than the god tree himself, Yu Ziyu. They caught him in 480p. They could not believe that they were seeing a tree evolving the beasts. It's only been half a year since the first spiritual revival. Being able to control 8 peregrine falcons and tame a first-order transcendent emperor alligator in such a short amount of time is unbelievable. They estimate that the strength of this tree could not be lower than that of the first-level transcendent. You must pump those numbers up to be able to manipulate all the strange beasts, evolve human beings, and learn the human language. They think that the answer to these mysteries will only be revealed to them when General Li personally arrives at the enemy's location. What they are going to confront is far from human. This will be their first direct contact with a newly awakened intelligent monster. Back in the heart of the gorge, General Li is being continuously pummeled by the almighty Yu Ziyu. He brandished his root in the form of a sharp blade, only stopping a few inches from the man's throat. Just a few moments ago, this guy was making boastful statements that he would win right here and right now. This all-might-looking dude really thought he got this in the bag. But now, the scene is far from what he expected. Here he is kneeling in front of the god tree. His life is now in the hands of the boss monster. Yu Ziyu stated that he had no intention of starting a war against humans at all. They did not have to attack this place. He extended an offer that if every human force retreats right now, he will never invade human territory. With eyes full of hatred and contempt, General Li expressed his doubts regarding the god tree's words. He continued that Yu Ziyu probably hasn't realized it yet, but all incoming soldiers are equipped with spiritual power isolation devices, which can isolate the spiritual power within a radius of 5 meters around every unit. The spiritual power of Yu Ziyu's subordinates has been cut off. They cannot even perceive the fog emanating all over the place. General Li continued his speech with the announcement that he had just received a message that all the organized beast creatures that have been targeting soldiers have been killed. Whether it's the honey badger that injured Supreme Commander Yan'Gao Yuan back then, or the white tiger that fought against hundreds of soldiers to protect the mute woman, all of them have died on this mountain already. He readied his special ability as he continued to taunt and disturb Yu Ziyu. In General Li's perspective, the god tree is the elephant, and the humans are just a group of ants. Only by biting him to death little by little can they continue to survive on this land. They had no reason to fight the elephant in the first place. Humans are stupid, bro. Yu Ziyu finally showed signs of giving in to rage, but he held himself back. He knows that this war cannot be won without making sacrifices. But what that means is every single citizen in this gorge is not afraid of death. The peregrine falcons are continuing their job of bursting through the sky to erase every single airborne unit the human forces possess. They are swift and focused to the highest degree. The soldiers are beginning to realize that their speed is not the same as it was in the beginning. Even though they are incredibly strong, they are showing signs of fatigue already. Gullah had managed to make quick work of the superhuman reinforcements on one side of the battlefield. King Kong is in an intense battle against multiple awakened soldiers at once. He's been tanking enhanced bullets and spiritual abilities like there's no tomorrow. The Emperor Alligator finally arrived at the final site of his little brothers that he protected every single night of the mountain hunts as the Expeditionary Beast Unit. Press F to pay respects, boys. Tears could not help but fall from his eyes full of hatred and regret. Sparky is rushing towards the enemy lines that are continuously advancing towards the heart of the mountain. His hate and bloodlust are so palpable that you can see it in his eyes with just a single glance. In Yu Ziyu's point of view, this world should belong to everyone, so they are never going to back down. Surviving and fighting is the only thing that they can do. Even if they receive the hatred of this world, they will endure. I followed this tree to the death. He asked General Lee a simple question. Since when did the world belong solely to humans? This simple question struck the general like a ton of bricks. Yu Ziyu simply found this whole situation as a comical twist of fate. The humans started this bloody war, but if they can't kill him today, he vowed to stop at nothing to take his revenge. With utmost willpower and resolve, he declared that where they live, everyone does not need anyone's approval. That's because this world that they are living in is a place for all living creatures. This is why he is goated. These humans barging in just keep on blabbing, and it does not sit right with him. It was as if the Emperor Alligator heard his master's emotionally charged words as he roared in fury. Back on the other side of the gorge, Gullah gripped Ching Chuan by his neck as if he was nothing. He took care of everyone that stood in his way. That's when Sparky finally arrived with a surprise attack from the back, but the genetically modified anomaly managed to notice his blade coming and put up a defensive measure in less than a split second. Sparky is primed and ready for slaughter. Thorn was both relieved and afraid for the golden mutant ant's arrival. In his mind, vengeance is the only thing he can think of. He had finally caught up with the humans that killed his white tiger brother and left him in a broken state. The soldiers immediately positioned themselves to deal with the newly arrived enemy, but before they could even lift their guns, all of them were already decapitated as a blue lightning-fast aura weaved through the multitude of soldiers. Wherever Sparky goes, the fearsome blue mantis follows. Name a better assassin duo than this two. Gullah tried to create some distance against the golden mutant ant, but Sparky is relentless in his pursuit. He did not expect there to be another fast-moving beast among the enemies, and it was incredibly intelligent as well. Amid the chaos, the shameless Yan Langling slowly tried to sneak off as she saw that the battle was escalating to a higher level. This girl is just the lowest of the low. Sparky caught this attempt to sneak off and immediately poised to pursue her. Disregarding Blue Mantis' warnings, he dashed full speed ahead, only to be met by a dark and sinister aura emanating from Gullah. Gullah effortlessly sent Sparky back to where he started from. He assured them that they are not the only ones that can move fast. The frustrated Blue Mantis tried to take a shot at the vampire-looking hybrid, but he was easily stonewalled by an absolute defense. In response, Gullah summoned hundreds of bats all over the place as he activated his Bat Shadow Impact. Blue Mantis was also sent back, defeated, and injured. Blue Mantis regained his footing, but he already knew that although the opponent had only used one move, they were not even close to being a match for this guy. Blue Mantis was only at entry level 7. After all, Sparky tried to stand up as he recovered from his reckless blunder. Like Blue Mantis, he was only at entry level 8. The man in front of them was the ace of the extraordinary genetic division, the level 1 transcendent Gullah. You guys are going to need the big guns for this Dracula. The always calm and eloquent Sparky turned into a beast as he roared with all his might. A golden meteor charged towards Gullah. It was as if Sparky had lost all reason as he tried to attack with the same technique. He clashed against the genetic transcendent, but the results were the same. He was stonewalled completely. With a stubborn shout, he continued with a flurry of slashes at the limits of his speed. Gullah effortlessly dodged every single swing, leaving only after images with each step he took. This dude has Ultra Instinct. He briefly built up momentum from the floor and exhibited his top speed as he surrounded the vampire with golden streaks of his after images. Sparky was moving so fast that even the Blue Mantis could not keep up with his unpredictable movements. The pure animosity he felt towards humanity culminated as he reached the highest speed he could muster. He slammed down like a golden comet directly towards Gullah. Instead of the end of the battle, all Sparky saw was a face full of contempt. Gullah insulted him for going all out, using all his strength and speed, only to be unable to penetrate his skin. He raised his cloak, which took on a sharp appearance as it swiped Sparky as if he were just a useless bug. As always, Blue Mantis came to his rescue with the fastest speed he could muster. Gullah simply laughed at this charge, as it had already been proven that their attacks were no match for him. That's when something unexpected happened. The unconscious, beaten, and bloody Ching Chuan stood up, catching Gullah by surprise. When it came to pure body strength, Ching Chuan was at the top of the charts. So when he grabbed Gullah with a grapple, he held him tightly. He screamed for Lang Feng to finish off their surprise attack as a silhouette of a sword-wielding man came into view from the dark skies. He stated that since he was too weak to cut through the transcendent skin, he would go from Gulla's eyeballs all the way through his intestines. That's a mortal combat fatality. For the first time in this war, the ace of the extraordinary genetic division felt genuine dread and anxiety. When the killing blow was supposed to land on his hateful eyes, the vampire naturally transformed into 100 different bats, rendering their grapple and stab useless. Lang Feng gritted his teeth in frustration at letting such a golden opportunity go to waste. From a distance, a weak voice telling them what to do could be heard. Among the hundreds of bats flying in the air, there was certainly one particular beast that bore a special feature. Thorn had successfully and immediately recognized the distinction, yelling at her friends to target the bat with red eyes. Gulla clicked his tongue as his trick was so easily seen through by Thorn's intuition. But before he could do anything about it, Blue Mantis was already behind him, going for a sneaky death blow. The bat with red eyes panicked, not expecting the coordination of his enemies to be this quick. In his weak bat form, Blue Mantis finally landed a clean blow on his back, prompting him to scream in pain from the sharp slash. He started losing balance mid-air, blaming his luck for the relentless attacks coming at him one after another. That slash really took a toll on him as he crashed down at unbelievable speeds. Sparky would never let an opportunity like this pass him by. Gulla, in bat form, was once again put in a pinch as the hateful ant approached him at absurd speeds with killing intent. Sparky finally caught up and immediately grabbed the tiny, red-eyed bat by its tiny head. He repeatedly shouted the word die as he exerted his authority over his enemy. He crashed the bat onto the ground, causing a massive impact with just his sheer force. Lang Feng and Qing Chuan watched in anxious anticipation to see if they finally won this time around. Blue Mantis rushed to Sparky's side to see what had just happened. That's when his sinister aura started to emanate directly from the ground where the bat had been slammed into. The only thing on their minds was to run as fast as they could. Gulla activated his powerful transcendent ability, the Shadow Impact. Dark beams of shadow exploded in every direction, swallowing even the light itself. Blue Mantis hurriedly shoved Sparky away from the direct beam of shadow, taking it into his body. Similarly, Qing Chuan pushed Lang Feng to safety as he took the brunt of the force from the shadow beam, piercing cleanly through his body. When the shadow impact finally subsided, the surrounding area became barren, and a thick cloud of dust enveloped the whole expanse. The hundreds of bats quickly coalesced back into the original form of the transcendent Gulla. He complained that the move he just used consumed far too much energy, but he knew not to underestimate the squad he was facing. He had been blindsided far too many times already. Bro just used his ultimate. Lang Feng mourned the loss of his friend who sacrificed his life just to save him from certain death. Blue Mantis was not in the best shape either. He was coughing dangerously as the rage-blinded Sparky called out to him. He looked back at his friend and what he saw was traumatizing. Half of Blue Mantis' body had been blown off by the powerful beam of the shadow impact. His blood and guts spilled all over the floor. Sparky once again witnessed another one of his friends sustaining a fatal injury. This time, Blue Mantis sacrificed the right side of his body just to protect him. Gulla had finally recovered and was already going for another killing blow. His torn-apart cloak transformed into a sharp form resembling a drill. He assessed Sparky's traits, a petite body, superb speed, and impeccable strength. He knew that if he didn't kill him there, it would only become a lot harder to deal with him down the line. The only thing on his mind was killing Sparky right now. Kneeling in front of his friend who had just sacrificed himself to save him, Sparky was oblivious to the murderous rush of Gulla. Suddenly, the already injured Thorn stood up and rushed towards Gulla's strike. Sparky was brought back to his senses as his friend, his fifth sister, led down on him. Gulla's strike pierced through her body as if she were made of paper, and the Transcendent laughed maniacally. She turned to Sparky with her farewell. She said it was her turn this time to save him. Thorn's eyes became lifeless as the sharp cloak was withdrawn from her wound. Rest in peace, girl. This is the second time you're being taken from us. If Gulla reported these events to the military officials, maybe this kind of war wouldn't happen again in the future, but he decided to keep it all to himself. This was the only way he could keep finding pleasure in killing. He reassured them that they didn't have to cry because it didn't matter who died first. Now that he had changed his mind, he was going to kill every single one who stood in front of him. He considered killing Qing Chuan and Thorn as merely appetizers. Lang Feng was swallowed by grief as he blindly charged towards the monster, swinging his sword full of emotions. He called out to Sparky to take the mantis with him and run away if they wanted to live. He utilized another one of his trump cards as he called out to the mutant rat-digging squad from the construction of the underground city. Gulla didn't like rats at all. He viewed them as hateful creatures. As Sparky prepared to have another go at it with the genetic transcendent, the barely alive blue mantis called out to him. He knew they couldn't beat the guy at all. They had to run away. Blue mantis wanted to let the humans kill each other.